Hey guys, how you all doing? So today I thought I'd do a studio rankings video. It's also my first real music video, I guess, since I had my operation 2.5 weeks ago. I've been concentrating on that and getting well. Anyway, this one's going to be the 12 George Harrison solo albums. I'll give you a bit of background into my relationship, I guess, with George Harrison's music. So I think the first thing I ever purchased of his was the Somewhere in England album when it was released in 1981. I was getting into the Beatles at that stage. John had died. I was already a Paul McCartney and Wings fan, a Paul McCartney fan, and he released Somewhere in England with all those years ago on it. And I bought the single, then I bought the album, and over time I bought 3 or 4 other albums, a compilation album, etc. And I thought he was okay. Anyway, we'll fast forward now to about 2020-ish. Actually, it was during COVID lockdown, so it could have been any time, 2020, 21. And I got a friend who owns a record shop, and he still owned his record shop well into till he died about a year ago now, close to a year ago. And he was one of the only a handful of independent record store owners still in the Perth metropolitan area. His store's closed down now and everything's been sold off, etc, etc. But yeah, this is going back to 2020. I'd already known him since about 1983ish, I guess, and I was always buying compact discs off him and records and whatever. And anyway, about 2020, 21, I went into his shop. He said, "Are you a George Harrison fan?" I went, "Yeah, I'm a George Harrison fan. I've got a few of his albums." And he said, "Look, I've got this in store. Are you interested in buying it?" And it was this 12 LP, well 13 because it includes the Live in Japan. There you are, that's the image there. He said, "I've had this in store for close on a year now. A guy put down, it was like $1,200 in Australia to buy this on vinyl." He said, "Look, a guy ordered it and he put down, I think he said about $400 deposit on it because it was expensive, for as a special order." And I said, "Yeah, I'm interested. What do you want for it?" And he said, "Look," he knew I was a carpenter, and he said, "Look, I need a couple of doors rehung at my house. If you want to do them in Gosnells for me, if you want to do these 2 doors and then give me 350, I think it was, cash for the box set, because that's what he paid for it with his wholesale price or whatever." And I said, "You know what, a couple of doors, I can do that in an hour, not a problem." He's got everything there for me, and it was only 15 minutes down the road from where I was living anyway. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." So yeah, I did these 2 doors for him, gave him 350 cash, and got this box set. So then I got to earn and know all of George Harrison's albums, and I listened to them a lot over the COVID period because a lot of things were in lockdown. I could still work because I was a contractor. I was classed as sort of an emergency service, so nothing closed down as per construction. Anyway, over the last couple of weeks, again, since I've had this surgery on my hand, I've been re-listening to George Harrison albums again. So I thought, I might as well do this rankings video. So that's how it all came about. That's how my George Harrison, my love of George Harrison came about as well, from getting this box set, etc. And how I started liking him back in 1981. Whatever. So let's go through this. So at number 12 on my list, probably no surprises to most people, Electronic Sound. This was released in 1969. It was his second album. It's one of the earliest examples of an electronic / ambient album by a mainstream artist from the rock era. It's cited as a huge influence on the likes of Rick Wakeman, Brian Eno, Jean-Michel Jarre, and Vangelis, amongst others as well, including Mike Oldfield, I believe. It's full of synths, it's full of sound effects, etc. It's one track on each side, so it's 2 tracks. I don't like that sort of music anyway, so I was never ever going to like this album. but as a precursor to what electronic slash ambient music become, I guess it's important to that genre, and of all people to do it happened to be George Harrison. But yeah, I really don't like anything about this, so this one comes in at 1 out of 10 for me. Number 2 on my, or number 11 on my list, sorry. We go to 1968 with George's debut album again. Not a surprise to most people. Some people have this sort of 8 and 9 in their list, but I have it at number 11. It's Wonderwall. It's the soundtrack to the album to the movie of the same name. This was released in 1968. Experts call it ragga rock. It's basically Indian classical music mixed with a bit of Western music, and it's so-called experimental world music. There's a couple of interesting little pieces on here, but again, overall, it's really not my thing, and I really only listen to it when I have to, as in doing rankings videos, etc., and that sort of thing. Not really my thing. I couldn't care less if I ever listened to this album again. The same with Electronic Sound. That one comes in at 2 out of 10 for me. Now, at number 10 on my list, we go to Dark Horse. This was released in 1974. It's his 5th studio album. Ranked lower than I expected it to, and not as good as I remembered it to be the last time I played it, which would have been 3 or 4 years ago. It's a dark album, and the running themes that go through it are loss, marriage breakup, self-doubt, betrayal by friends, etc. And he was going through a pretty dark period during this stage in his life. It's a very depressing album lyrically, obviously, because of those themes. But the music is still quite light and breezy with what you'd expect from George Harrison. And the music is the one that lifts this for me above the lyrics. It comes in at 7 out of 10. Number 9 on my list, we go to 33 and a Third. This one comes from 1976. It's his 7th studio album. Opens up with some real funky disco vibes on Woman Don't You Cry for Me. There's lots of love songs on this, and it's mixed with some tongue-in-cheek humour as well, which is what you always get on a George Harrison album. Overall, I find this album quite uplifting and positive for the most part. Beautiful Girl is absolutely brilliant. This song, that's one of the sort of tongue-in-cheek sarcastic songs on here, which he's looking back at his lawsuit for the He's So Fine thing, but we're not going to get into that. Dear One is absolutely beautiful. See Yourself is absolutely beautiful. Great album. 7.5 out of 10. Number 8 on my list, we're going to go to 1975's Extra Texture. Read all about it. Yeah, this one opens up with the effervescent You, which was the basic hit single off this album. There really wasn't any others, and You wasn't even a huge hit off this album. The whole sound is very summery. His music, as you'll hear on most of my albums, is very uplifting. It's very light, it's very breezy, it's very summery. Most of his stuff has the pedal steel guitar in it, or slide guitar. That's sort of his signature sound. There's lots of horns throughout this one, which elevates this album to another level for me. It's a highly underrated album. I used to dislike it. This is one I owned on cassette many years ago. Oh God, I used to hate this album with a passion for some reason. Could never get into it. And then when I got this box set and I listened to them all in chronological order, I thought, wow, it's such a cool album. And since then I've grown to love it, and I do love it. It comes in at 8 out of 10. Next on my list is the one that is going to surprise a lot of people. We have his 3rd studio album, the triple vinyl set, 1970s, All Things Must Pass. Most people would have this at number 1 for sure. Most people call this the greatest solo album by any Beatle. I don't know, I just don't like the whole 3rd album. People say it's a triple album. People say you've got to regard it as a double album with some jams thrown in at the end, but that's not how it was advertised. It was advertised and billed as a triple album, not a double album with bonus tracks. And albums did have bonus tracks written on them back in the 60s and 70s. Elvis Presley was known for it, Johnny Cash was known for it. So if it really was a double album with bonus tracks, then that's what it would have been labelled as. So, you know, I disagree with everyone that it's a double album. It is a triple album. That's how it was intended. The first three sides are really, really good. It's band stuff, a full band, but the predominant instruments on throughout this is the acoustic guitars. The opening track was co-written with Bob Dylan. He also sings If Not For You on here, another Dylan track. But these are really, really good songs on the first three sides. I think they're really, really good and stand up to anything the Beatles did. Side 4 is a bit, it's so-so. I think it outstayed its welcome by the time I'm, that far into this album. For me, anyway. And I just can't listen to sides 5 and 6. I really don't get it. And that's what lets this album out, lets this down for me. Had it have been released as a double album, it would certainly be in probably my top 2 or 3 George Harrison albums of all time. But yeah, just sadly, it's that third disc that lets that down for me. But the rest of the songs are really, really good. Number 6 on my albums list, we go to 1973. Living in the Material World. This was his 4th studio album. This is his spiritual album. Everything on it is spiritual. It's about inner peace, gaining inner peace. The kind of well-being that spirituality brings. It also highlights the inner turmoil he was having in his life and his struggles with fame. So it's the whole yin and yang thing going on there. Musically, it's very light and breezy, and obviously the steel pedals are throughout this. This is such a really, really good album. This one comes in at 8 out of 10 also. At number 5 on my list, we go to the first George Harrison album I ever purchased somewhere in England. This was from 1981, his 9th studio album. Blood from a Clone opens up this album. The music is very dated 1980s synth stuff, but it's really, really good. Blood from a Clone highlights his hatred of the men in suits at record companies and what they try to make you do. Unconsciousness Rules is great. All those years ago is probably the weakest track on this album for me. There's nothing wrong with it. I just find it very dull for some reason. Teardrops should have been a top 10 hit everywhere. It had all the energy and vibe of a disco type song or a Travelling Wilburys type song, for example. That Which I've Lost, Writings on the Wall, Life Itself, they're all spiritual songs. So he's still doing these sorts of songs on this album. Save the World, that's a beautiful song, an environmental song about saving the planet. So he was well and truly singing about that sort of stuff throughout most of his career anyway. A very, very good album. 8.3 out of 10 for me. Sorry. So at number 4 on my list, we go to his 12th and final studio album. This was released in 2005, 4 years after his death, Brainwashed. There's tracks here dating back to 1988, 89, from that sort of Travelling Wilburys period. Any Road could well and truly have been a Travelling Wilburys song. Between Devil and Deep Blue Sea could have been a Travelling Wilburys song as well. But this is his 12th album. He'd been working on this for like the last decade and a bit of his life. And supposedly on his deathbed, he'd sort of written down how he wanted it to be finished, etc. As a note to Darnie, his son, and Jeff Lynne, who produced it and who worked on it prior to his death. I think this is absolutely fabulous. It's a solid collection of songs. The best song on here for me is the title track, Brainwashed. It's got 3 verses on here from memory. 3 verses, very tongue-in-cheek, almost sarcastic looking, you know, the way the Western world is, etc. And then it goes off into a reading of, I don't know, Vishnu, Krishna, whatever it happens to be, some of his spirituality stuff. There's chants on it as well. So that song sums up George Harrison to a T, and it's one of the greatest songs of his from his entire career, in my opinion. That album comes in at 8.5 out of 10. Sorry, it's a bit hard doing this when you're bound up with one hand. So at number 3 on my list, this is going to surprise a lot of people. The follow-up to Somewhere in England. This was released in 1982. Gone Troppo. This is his 10th studio album. This one gets slagged off a lot by most people. It's often at the bottom or near the bottom of most people's rankings videos. It's a very poppy album. It's very poppy. It's sort of, it does fit somewhere between Somewhere in England and Cloud 9, which came about, 5 years after this. So it's a stepping stone to Cloud 9. It's very light. It's very breezy. It's very summery. And just a really good album. The title Gone Troppo is actually an Australian slang term for gone a bit loopy, gone a bit mad. And yeah, I guess the music industry had left him feeling like that at this stage. It didn't sell anywhere in the world. The singles failed to chart, and George Harrison refused to do interviews to promote it. He refused to make videos for the singles. It was basically a contractual thing, I think, with the record company. But yeah, really good album. Grease is really, I think Grease is probably my favourite song on here. It's mostly instrumental, and then he's speaking some words in Greek sort of towards the end, and they're not in the foreground, they're sort of in the background. That's really good. The final track on here is a song called Circles. That was originally demoed as part of the White Album, but they never finished it, so here it is on here. But yeah, just a really good song. Wake Up My Love, Really Love You, Baby Don't Run Away. Such a cool album. If you've never heard this album, go and give it a listen. You might be really surprised by it. Number 2 on my list, we go to 1979 with George's 8th studio album, self-titled George Harrison. This is what I call his happy album. After a 1970s decade of being down and depressed and, blaming all his woes on fame and the Beatles and marriage splitting up and betrayal by friends, etc. This is just a happy album. He's in a really good place mentally with this album, and it shows with all the songs. Blow Away was the single of this album, and that sums up the album totally. Just that whole upbeat, simple song, it just sums up the whole album. But the whole album is so good. It's just so light-hearted. It's so bubbly. It's so there you go again. It's so summery and breezy, and slide guitar throughout, steel pedal guitar throughout. The weakest song on here is probably Faster, but yeah, brilliant album. He should have done more happy albums, I think, and people might have liked him a bit more with his solo material a bit more. So yeah, this one comes in at 8.5 out of 10 for me. Sorry, not 9, 8.5 out of 10. This is the album that comes in 9 out of 10. Number 1 from 1987, Cloud 9. Brilliant album. Produced by Jeff Lynne. Just brilliant. Got My Mind Set on You was the big hit from this, which was a cover of an old R&B song from the very late 1950s, from 1958 from memory, but I could be wrong on that. Devil's Radio is a very tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic song. Cloud 9 is what it is. When We Was Fab, which included the 3 surviving Beatles in the video. So Ringo's in it playing drums, walking with the keyboard. Paul is actually in it. As you see, the Beatles there, supposed Beatles, and the Walrus is there playing left-handed bass. Paul McCartney does walk by and his image is all wavy and out of focus. Well, that's Paul McCartney anyway, so he does appear on that video, which is really good. But yeah, just a fantastic album. Breath Away from Heaven, Wrecker the Hesperus, Someplace Else. That's What It Takes, Fish on the Sand, Just for Today. Absolutely brilliant. It totally is George Harrison at his best. And yeah, absolutely brilliant. It's the perfect pop album, without a shadow of a doubt. The perfect pop album. Don't know what else to say. The Travelling Wilburys were actually born out of this album. The record label wanted a B-side for one of the singles, and he quickly wrote Handled with Care. He called in his friends, who ended up are the Travelling Wilburys, who were working in London at that time, and basically put down that song. The record labels went, nah, that's too good for a B-side. So Travelling Wilburys were born out of this album for sure. Great album. Has the great hallmarks of Jeff Lynne all over it, and the brilliant songwriting of George Harrison at his best. And you can even see there, he's happy, he's smiling. So anyway, guys, that's my rankings video of George Harrison's solo albums and how I got into George Harrison. Don't know what else to say. Leave your comments in the comments section below. Let me know what your rankings would be. If you disagree with some of my albums placings, let me know. I'll go back and listen to these albums and try and hear what you're hearing, if I'm obviously not hearing it, etc. Till next time, guys, stay safe, take care. All for now. Catch you around, and bye, folks.